May 12th, 2015. It's been a little while since my previous installment in this video diary. As you can see, my beard has become even more luxurious. School is safely over, and I have become more merciful in my dotage, having turned 60 years old. And I have eased up on the grades as much as I dare to. It's all disturbingly arbitrary. Students will end the semester with a 59.95 average. This happened. 59.95 average, which gives them a D. And if they had had 0.05% more, 5 parts in 10,000, they'd pass, and if not, then they can't. And it's just, what's that? You know, it's just, but I can't change the grade. The students earn grades. I don't give grades, but I arbitrarily define what the cutoffs are, and of course, all the questions and everything. It's a very strange and disturbing thing to have to penalize students who have worked very hard but really don't understand the subject very well. So that always makes a sort of a difficult atmosphere at the end of classes, because students will beg for that extra minuscule roundup error to get a C- instead of a D, which means not having to come back to school for another semester and pay out a whole bunch of money, and that's just part of the game. And also today, I got the student comments. They grade teachers at the end of the semester and hand in their assessments of how well you've done, which is always a bit of a grim time for the faculty. And I mean, I do pretty well on that measure. Having been a student for 29 years, I'm pretty used to how not to be a really bad teacher. And some students think I did great, and of course there's always a couple of students who think I should be run out of town on a rail. Yeah. But it's been a very interesting time for music. I'm finishing up a big symphony for concert band. It's bands play new music. They actually do. Much easier to get something played with a band than most other ensembles, especially orchestra. Of course, I'm a string person, so writing for just winds and brass and a few timpani is a very major conceptual challenge. And I've basically done nothing else all this year. Just starting in January, I just said, okay, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to get into that groove and go with the trombones and see what I can come up with. And it's really been a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be something that's, I find, highly acceptable to put into my catalog. I've took the liberty of taking out of my files music that no one would touch. An old brass quintet, I could never get it played. It had a few flaws in it, and it was really better suited to be with with 80 people playing it than just 5 anyway. So it completely recast it, tore it apart, put it back together again, and that, you know, that gave me one movement, and you know, got an old jazz band piece. Can't get a jazz band place. I mean, I don't write jazz. There's no improv, and I don't do chord changes. I write classical music. It may be relatively lowbrow classical music from time to time, but it's not jazz. And so when you go to a jazz band to play it, they don't know what to do with it because it's not in their idiom. So that's been sitting on my shelf since 1990, and I've drug it out, tore it apart, put it back together again, and it gave me it got me started on a couple of movements. So I'm really crossing my fingers. This is all very speculative. Nobody asked me to do this. I'm asking people to play it, which is the usual way that I have managed to not get played for decades. But there are some good bands in this area. The Duke Wind Symphony is really quite respectable, and CSU has an okay band, and they could play it. So that's my start. That's my start. So and then Hugh Partridge with the Triangle Youth Philharmonic has asked me to write a 10-minute piece for winds and brass, just for a fall concert based on Don Quixote. But I've got the beard for it and the general look for it. So because he's got a string piece this orchestra is playing, and what do you do with the winds and brass when you got a string place? So you need something to balance that out. So you know, it's a utilitarian little project. So that'll be, you know, a bunch of my summer, and I have a few other potentially wonderful things coming up, but still negotiating. It's Trials and Tribulations of a superannuated 60-year-old composer who is still struggling to get things moving, but it will find its way. And then on Memorial Day weekend coming up later this month, I'm going to spend 4 days at what's called the Sadhu Sangha, which is basically an ISKCON event, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, the Hare Krishnas, put on a big event in Boone, North Carolina, out in the mountains. And although I've become rather allergic to their guru, founder, acharya, teacher, Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, I've been assured that by people who have been there that I can go for the chanting, go for the darshan, go for the, you know, the general vibe, and not worry about the doctrinal details and the cultish aspects and the various cultural clashes, because it's a major concern of mine. I mean, I want to have spiritual community, but I'm not really interested in extremely conservative, conservative, like 2,500 years ago conservative. I mean, you know, a lot of Catholicism wants to give 12th century answers to 21st century questions. Well, that's understandable. It worked then. And Islam with 7th century, well, Hinduism is like Bronze Age. I mean, they go way back. And they're with the advocating slavery and the whole caste system based on your skin color, and Aryan super race, and you wouldn't think because it's a a lot of gentle, wonderful people and the saints, and it's, I mean, I get great inspiration from it, but it does include a side to it among some practitioners, Prabhupada included, that makes the Taliban look like Sunday school. I mean, it's make illegal coffee, tea, cigarettes, alcohol, all abortions in all cases, whether rape or incest doesn't matter, life of the mother doesn't matter. Make divorce illegal. I mean, make it legally, make a law worldwide for everybody that all girls have to be married by age 16, and they can't have any employment outside the house, and they can the only jobs they could ever have in the house have to do with dairy food and spinning. Check that out. Of course, on the male side, males would have to marry by age 22. And of course, no democracy. You have to go back to a Vedic monarchy. I don't think so. And Prabhupada also was very supportive of Confederacy. He thought it was a shame that the South lost the Civil War, because it was most fitting for blacks and Native Americans to work with no wages, because if you give money to Shudras, the lowest caste, then they just get drunk and cause trouble. I can't deal with that. But the chanting and the dancing and the prasad and the devotion to God, I mean, all that stuff is really pretty cool. So I'll try and focus on that and just ignore this, well documented. I mean, I've got the documents. It's like and just try and ignore that and enjoy some very lovely people. And but it's a struggle to find spiritual community when you're an eccentric. That's just the way it is. But my friends in Denton, my hometown, have had some crazy weather lately with the tornadoes and a whole lot of rain, and so they're digging out from that, and my sympathy goes to them, and I'll be back in touch with them for a while. So I will make another installment at greater frequency than this, and signing off. And here is a recent creation. How I lived without this for so many years, I don't know. I just went down to the hardware store, got me some hooks, some hose clamps, and I salvaged an old rig that I had used to help me try and play violin despite arthritis, which didn't work. And presto, convenience.